Over the past couple of years, the gaming scene has really taken a massive paradigm shift that no one really could have expected. The industry as a whole turned from this walled-off juggernaut of AAA developers taking center stage to new roots sprouting into beautiful trees to rival titans like Konami or Capcom. From Cave Story in 2004 to Super Meat Boy to Hades, it's undeniable that indie games have cemented themselves in the public zeitgeist now more than ever. From Hollow Knight to Valhalla or Stardew to Hotline Miami, indie games are able to reach audiences that bedrock franchises like Call of Duty and Mario could never hope to reach out to. Without the need to adhere to a higher corporate power like big dev studios need to, indie games can be whatever they want. From a lost child roaming the underground to a funny little marshmallow, these works of art let us delve deep into whatever the artists decide to reflect. And few places do I feel exemplify this fact than the cold, mystical mountain of Celeste. Released in 2018 by the studio Extremely OK Games, Celeste tells the story of Madeline, a young woman whom we find staring down the towering presence of the titular Mount Celeste. It looks like a long climb up, but with one foot in front of the other, we make our way to the foot of the mountain. Celeste, as you may be able to tell, is a 2D platformer, much in the veins of things like Super Meat Boy. Your moveset is limited, consisting of a jump, grab, and a dash to zoom you to a distant spot quickly. But don't take the light move pool for granted. Despite Madeline only being able to do these three things, the game allows for such rich weaving of skill that it's incredible. While the base game will test the skills of a player very well, the harder post-game challenges require things like dashing off a wall to kick it off with more height and speed, or even something like wave dashing. And these moves and techniques are only complemented by the level gimmicks of each stage. Level gimmicks in platformers can always be something of a mixed bag. When done poorly, a bad gimmick can completely ruin a level, creating a horrid slog that a player must go through anytime they want to replay the game. But when gimmicks are done really well, you get Celeste. Whether you're flying through the sky with feathers or dashing to activate certain blocks, the level design of the game only serves to complement player expression. There's not a single gimmick in this game that I would describe as bad or even subpar. Everything this game includes, from the very beginning of the game right until that final farewell, is immaculately crafted to test the player in new and exciting ways that make it intoxicating. I never get bored playing this game because there's always something to look forward to. Well, except for most of the bosses. The first boss is pretty simple. It's a distorted mirror version of Madeline, we'll get to that later, who takes the Shadow Mario route and follows your exact movements. So long as you make sure not to retrace your steps when she's there, you're golden. The next boss is far more annoying in my eyes. While the last boss did a pretty good job of testing a player's spatial awareness, the second boss of the game, Mr. Oshiro, doesn't really do much in my opinion. He just dashes from behind the player, occasionally making you need to move out of the way in a horizontal axis. It's more of an annoyance to me than anything, and it really does stand out as a dud amongst great level design. The best boss, by far though, is the rematch against that mirror version. This time, instead of using Shadow Clone Jutsu, she just straight up shoot lasers at you, as well as moving all the terrain around in order to stop you from getting to her. It takes place at the tail end of this game and serves as a wonderful challenge before taking on the final climb. Another thing that's important to mention is that, well, this game is fucking hard. I compared it to Super Meat Boy of all things for a reason. You will die, and it will be a lot. But thankfully, the game does two things to help with this. The first is constant checkpoints. Celeste will checkpoint you every time you enter a room, so it doesn't matter how many times you die, you'll get as many chances as you need to master that screen before moving on to the next challenge. I find this kind of gameplay very rewarding, because while I may fall again, and again, and again and again, I know that I'll be over the hurdle the moment the screen transitions, and that's enough to keep me going. The second thing this game does to support players is a feature called Assist Mode. This mode is very customizable to a player's need. From infinite dashes to just straight up invincibility, the game lets you play at your comfort level and will never make fun of you for doing so. They want you to play and enjoy the game. even if it's not how the devs naturally intend for the game to be played. Oh, and how could I forget the music? The composer for the game, Lena Raine, is so remarkably talented that it's insane. I've been listening to the OST for this game for years, and you've been hearing it in this video so far. From the Forsaken City's track First Steps, giving off this perfect sense of starting a journey with a long road ahead of you, to the almost ethereal and foreboding track of Quiet and Falling, this game's soundtrack does not miss. Not to mention that the B-side remixes of the track are absolutely phenomenal as well. But Celeste isn't just an empty game that's about climbing a mountain. This game's got character, from the people to the mountain itself. While climbing up the mountain, we could have a good look at the roster of characters that we'll be running into during our long and arduous journey. From the old lady and Mr. Oshiro, who make Celeste Mountain their home, to fellow climber Theo, the characters that make up this game are mostly well thought out and a wonderful experience. Starting from chapter 2 though, we get introduced to my second favorite character in the game, basically tied with Madeline herself, Madeline. After Madeline climbs up to an old city and reaches some ancient ruins with a mirror on it, Madeline, who is a part of Madeline, comes out and tries to talk down Maddie from climbing the mountain. She's not a mountain climber after all, so why is she trying at all? From here on, Madeline will be a recurring character to act almost as like a devil on Madeline's shoulder. She constantly berates Madeline and gets her into trouble, such as in chapter 3 where she verbally berates Mr. Oshiro for his hotel being in disarray. And while Madeline was thinking the same things, Madeline's lack of a filter or care for people really makes it come off as just downright cruel, especially considering how they're both aware of Mr. Oshiro's issues. But nothing compares to when she appears at the end of chapter 4. Madeline and Theo make it a healthy way up the mountain so far, finding themselves at an old gondola. It doesn't look safe, but it's the only way up, so we take it. Unfortunately, Madeline shows up and stalls the damn thing, and worse yet, Theo broke the handle. This sends Madeline spiraling into a panic attack, lashing out at Theo a bit in the process. But, much to Theo's credit, he tells her not to deflect on him and shows her a trick to help calm her breathing. This is my second favorite scene in the whole game. From the natural way that Theo and Madeline interact with each other to the wonderful advice that Theo gives that I personally use when I have issues, it makes this wonderfully tense moment and its cathartic release have such staying power in the mind. But there's still one scene that I think trumps it, and he comes with an incredible boss to boot. Chapter 6 starts with a nice little talk between Maddie and Theo. You can actually skip this scene by going to bed early, but you miss out on a lot of great dialogue and the opportunity to just vibe with these characters. But it turns sour quickly as Madeline appears in Maddie's dream, dragging her down from the near top where she once was, back down to the bottom of the mountain. It's heartbreaking to see, and it's further cemented by the fact that this is the only level in the base story, besides the prologue and the epilogue, to not have any collectible strawberries. But this story does have a happy ending. Madeline's issue throughout this whole game has been her desire to try and get rid of that part of her. Everything that makes up Madeline is what Madeline sees as, well, bad. She's negative, hostile, and can be downright pain. But Madeline can be just as bad to her. She tries to escape Madeline, trying to push her away and let her go. But it isn't until this chapter that she realizes just how wrong she was. Madeline isn't a perfect person. She's not bad. She's not evil or malicious or anything of the sort. What she is scared. Madeline is more than just the doubts Maddie has inside of her. She's her fears, her failures, the part of her that overthinks everything into danger. But that doesn't make her bad. That's why, for the chapter 6 boss fight, we mirror the boss with Madeline from chapter 2. Where in the ruins Madeline was following our steps like a shadow to chase us down, Chapter 6 has us following Madeline, trying to confront her now that Madeline understands how important she is. The scene that follows is just beautiful, and I won't spoil the specifics. The dialogue both here and as they climb up the mountain together in Chapter 7 are just amazing. But there is one last thing that we need to look at for this game. Celeste, at the end of the day, isn't about just climbing a mountain. Sure, physically, Maddie drives up to the mountain and just starts climbing. But there's something this game is chock full of that I've been waiting to talk about until now. Symbolism. And theming, but we'll just be sticking with the word symbolism, okay? Okay. Now, symbolism is a word that people love to throw around whenever they're trying to make something deeper than it really is. Much like how subtlety has become a buzzword in the horror scene, symbolism is something that art likes to act like it has rather than truly understanding it. But, as you might be able to tell, I think Celeste does it right. Let's start from the bottom and climb our way up, shall we? Madeline and the part of her narratively and symbolically stand in for feelings of depression, anxiety, and a general feeling of being stuck. Maddie starts her whole journey because she feels like she's in a rut she can't get out of, like she's just living the day-to-day with nothing else to be fulfilled by. Meanwhile, Madeline represents that voice that perpetuates that day-to-day dullness. Why try something new and scary when you can just be safe at home in bed? Even the side characters have something to add, with Mr. Oshiro representing unwillingness to move on from a point in life, even if what lies ahead is heartache. The old lady represents that voice in your head that challenges you. She points out similar things to Madeline, constantly asking if Maddie's given up, nudging her hard-headedness in the right way. But unlike Madeline, it doesn't feel aggressive. It seems very deliberate not to go too far into being mean, but just antagonistic enough to make you want to push further. Like a friend betting that you can't do something, only for you to try your ass off to prove them wrong. Theo represents an attachment to people's views. He cares so much about what other people think, always trying to post his next pic so that he can be seen. But it's not always a good thing. Like the eyes keeping him trapped in chapter 5, he feels just as trapped by the gazes of others, always taking extra care to what others think about him. And then, there's the most important character in the game itself. Celeste Mountain. Celeste, from the bottom of the ruined city to its breathtaking summit, symbolizes life itself. Because there will be ups and downs. You can keep climbing up and up and up, but sometimes things will just drag you back down to square one, and it can really hurt. But just because you hit the bottom doesn't mean that you're done. Madeline got back up and climbed. You got back up and climbed. It doesn't matter how many times you fail, how many times you fall, how many times you think about giving up or walking away. It doesn't matter, because eventually you can climb that mountain. You can succeed, and you can do great things. And even if you don't reach the summit, you can be proud that you tried. The effort was there, and that you learned something. Whether your mountain be literal or metaphorical, climb it. Your Celeste will look different from mine, or even the person next to you, but I can assure you that the view from the top is worth every struggle it took to get there. And that, despite it all, you get to say, I made it. All in all, Celeste is a wonderful platformer with great themes, amazing level design, and outstanding music. And I didn't even include everything for this video. There's a whole other chapter after 7 that delves deeper into the heart of the mountain, along with more difficult B and C side versions levels that really kick up the challenge with their own amazing remixes of Lena Raine's music. If you're thinking of picking this game up, I can't recommend it enough. It's $20 on Steam and plays incredibly smoothly. Just make sure to use a controller. So, yeah, thanks for watching. And stay safe climbing your next mountain. And I'll see you later.